Take one.
You're watching the QUESTionaire podcast.
What can they say?
You are checking out the QUESTionaire.
What's your name again?
The QUESTionaire.
Would you like to have questions?
I don't got it. I'm not that guy.
Submit yourself.
Super fun and entertaining.
This is the QUESTionaire.
Where do we go? Where do we go? Ladies and gentlemen, we go on a quest. That's what we do, yeah, because this is the QUESTionaire Season 3, rolling strong. I think we getting like close to 15 or something. I don't know. Like I said on a different episode, I don't know the episode number until the episode is actually like put up and I type it in. So while it's like being filmed, I got no bloody idea, because I am the unknown factor, AKA Jay Clark, right? And that's just kind of how it rolls, man, and like, I'll tell you though, I had Jay Clark being like causing problems, and I don't know what was up with that. Why is Jay Clark causing problems?
It's what I do, man. I try, but it's hard to help.
I was talking about myself. What are you doing here, Jay?
Now you're just confusing me. I think this is going to be a whole meta confusing situation.
I mean, what are you going to do? It is the QUESTionaire, and
I love it.
Like if there's not confusion in life, if there aren't moments where you're confused about what's going on, then you're really not doing it right. Like, I was honestly kind of confused because the gentleman that we have on tonight. I'm talking rudely. I just got go to bed. Go to bed. I love you. No, go. I love you. Go to bed. That is the greatest. Like, I love you. Go to bed.
That reminds me of years ago podcasting.
Yeah, you guys are older now, so.
Well, my kid's 50. He just turned 15 2 days ago, but I remember when he was small and would interrupt my podcasts all the time.
Mark McKenna in the house. Apparently, I'm talking rude. That's hilarious. And I agree. Facebook Marketplace is phenomenal. You know what I find Facebook Marketplace great for is comics, like collections, graphic novels that I want. And that's an old story that ooh, man, I found that I find great things that way. And I love it. Like, so for anyone out there looking to get into comics, I'm going to tell you the two best ways, in my opinion, in this moment to really get into comics are, one, your local library. It's free. You know what I mean? Just go to it. Or if you know something, like if you've watched some show, whether it be The Walking Dead, Invincible, The Boys, any of the Marvel films or DC films that are out there, that's a crazy amount. Go on Facebook Marketplace. You can get something on low, right? So I want to know, Mark, from someone that's old school, right? Because I remember, like, there's comic books in gas stations now. Did you know that? Have you seen a comic book in a gas station?
No. I have to say no to that.
It's what is it? I think it's Circle K, and it may just be in this area. I don't know, but they got comic. Like, my boy got to buy a comic book at a gas station, like a Scooby-Doo Batman comic, and that made my day. He doesn't even know. I'm like, this is so cool. He picked a comic book out at a gas station, right? So I want to know, from somebody that's seen everything transition, what do you think is the easiest way for people to step into reading comics now?
I know a lot of libraries do these graphic novel months now, and I think that's probably a good way of doing it. I grew up at spin racks, right? I would go get a haircut. I have $1.10 left over from the haircut. I'd go to the spin rack and pick all the mostly Marvel stuff. The DC stuff just didn't intrigue me back then. But I don't think they don't have spin racks at the gas stations. I don't think, do they?
It's what I've seen is ostensibly DC has taken, because it's only DC, and it's like one of them cardboard, pre-stands, and they've reprinted like the first issue of certain stories or just certain things. I think like there's just a lot of first key issues that they made reprints of, and they're putting.
That's
I think
cool, though.
it's a genius idea as a company. And I wish Marvel would follow suit. I really think they would have personally, and I feel like they would have better success with that, because I told someone that never read comics today, hey man, you're gonna need pin particles to get that through there. just in the, like I talking to you earlier on the show, and he knew what Pym particles were, which is
Yeah.
hilarious because he never read a comic. So I feel like Marvel would have great success in doing that. But no, God, I wish it was a spinner rack, dude. That'd be
So
awesome.
didn't Marvel do those things called they reprinted books and they called them True Believers or something like that? I know.
I remember that.
So I did Exiles back in early 2000s, and they re-released it at $1 price, I believe, and they called it True Believers. It was the exact same book and they just reprinted it at dropped the price. I don't know if the paper quality was. I didn't compare them to the original, but they didn't have it in a track into getting them into retail stores though. I mean, other than comic book shops. So I don't know, but you don't remember those?
No, I vaguely do, man, because I was a fan of the Exiles. I think that was a very, very intriguing story. As far as how it was just like, let's pick random people from every one of these single universes, and like there's an insanity there that I'm down with. You know what I mean? As far as how much you can just, I feel like that was a book. There was a lot of free reign given.
For sure. I mean, it was kind of like a what if, and it didn't really have to hold up. Some of those key X-Men storylines, they would revisit them and change the way they came, but it didn't really change the history of the X-Men, though.
Oh yeah,
kind of what ifs,
Yeah, and I always love the what ifs. And you're right, I never thought about that. But the Exiles was really ostensibly just a very long running what if, and I love the Age of Apocalypse and the fact that Blink was the main leader, and like they kind of got me on a hook with that one. I was like, oh, that was a cool kid, because correct me if I'm wrong, Blink was made up for the Age of Apocalypse, right?
Say it again.
Blink was made up for the Age of Apocalypse story, wasn't she?
I don't remember that. I do know originally the book was going to be titled Blink and the Exiles, and they changed the name to just Exiles. But she was super popular. They could feel her coming on, and then they gave her some love, And I don't know if she's still a player though. I haven't been paying attention in comics in a while.
Sometimes I wonder if the fact that if a new reader picked up a Marvel comic and saw that universe and those stories are actually so unattached to the cinematic universe now, would that turn them off from continuing to read the comics? I wonder if they've kind of painted themselves into a corner where people are so familiar with the characters through the movies that feeling uncomfortable and unfamiliar with them in the books would be like a turnoff to keep reading. I worry about that sometimes.
I could totally see that being a thing, but you also maybe they're curious too and want to see other angles from it. But I don't know. I mean, as soon as you said that, my brain went right to Silver Surfer in the new Fantastic Four movie, and how it's Shala Bal now and not Norrin Rad, right? And I'm not of the I'm okay with changing, doing things like that, making female characters into what was existing male characters, but that's not my Silver Surfer. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just not what I grew up with and who I imagined it would say,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's totally fair, but I do think it added an interesting dynamic as far as with the film and what they did with Johnny Torch. So I understand why they did it from that standpoint, because look, if you're dumping that much into a film, you want the most, like look, when they're making those films, they think about the comic book fans, but that's not the main thing they're thinking about. You know what I mean? They're thinking more about the mass audience. A lot of them who have never and probably will never y'all should pick up a comic book, right? If you've watched a comic book film and you truly enjoyed it, you should pick up a comic. You really should. Go to Facebook.
They should sell those comics at the movie theaters. They open a little kiosk.
Yeah,
when the kids are working out of the movie.
Yeah, that's smart.
I'm
surprised they don't.
And was it you that we discussed that with previously, Mark? Because I know that's been discussed on the show.
I probably brought it up before. I don't know if it was with you though.
I don't know, and it's fair, man. Look, the last time you were on, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was season 1. This is season 3. It's been a while. You know what I mean? But I've had that conversation with a couple different people, and a lot of the times it's the whole thing. They would have to be behind, and they would have to have an independent retailer, and I think it comes down to really the bottom line, because it does sound genius, but like, and I think the best way to do it would just keep it behind the concession stands and be like, we've got these 3 graphic novels, and this is what, like when the Winter Soldier came out, if they just would have had just that one. And just the floppy not the floppy comic, but like the softcover graphic novel, because I don't think you'd want, or really, if you think about it, oh my God, I almost guarantee if when those films come out, if they made a special edition of that comic, you know what I mean?
It depends on, I think, when you come from too, because this whole new Doomsday and Secret Wars, having Secret Wars and just going straight to the new one and skipping over having Beyonder as a character just automatically makes me go like, oh, I don't feel as connected to it, because like Beyonder was Secret Wars, right? How
Yeah.
do you start a Secret Wars without Beyonder? We're really just gonna jump to Doom? I don't know. It's weird now how I feel like the movies are so fast paced and they don't have as much time as the comics to develop characters and storylines, that we're jumping over some very important things. Like, I was really looking forward to seeing what they would do with the Beyonder, and we're not even going to get it,
Yeah. So the attention span, like you're saying, in a comic you could build it, but also, I worked on a book called Vexed at DC that Keith Giffen wrote, and I asked for them to put me back on the comp copy list so I could get the comps of everything Marvel or DC put out. And they said, well, we got to see the book sells. By the 6th issue, they had canceled the book. They can't. They don't even let it. They don't let it. Mold it into something bigger because the patience wasn't there for it. They didn't have the sales right away, and they don't believe in building it. Doom Patrol that I worked on for a year and a half was one of the books that hung in there. It had 35 to 40,000 readers a month, which were not big numbers in the early 90s. Books were selling 100, 200, 300,000 copies a month, but that had such a core audience that believed in it. And I was nominated for Inker of the Year in Comic Buyer's Guide, and I didn't even know.
because it was awesome.
So, yeah, it was that kind of
It was
stuff.
so good.
But they can't follow that through in the movies for some reason. I don't know.
I like the show though. I enjoyed Doom Patrol, the show.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the funny thing I think that you just brought up, Mark, though, is and we talked about this with Mark Bagley. We talked about this with a different Mark real recently, funnily enough.
Yeah, the Mark McKenna. Yeah.
I'm
Just kidding.
No, I ain't met another Mark McKenna. Look, I'm amazed I ran into another Jay Clark. Are you serious? If I run into another Jay Clark,
Really? I went to high school with like 3 other Jay Clarks. Like,
That's crazy.
whatever, man. I don't.
Such a common name.
I just,
I love it.
yeah. All right. Look, I'm gonna blame that you're in Canada, and that's just what I'm running with. All right.
The
Yeah,
Canadian
that's
version of it.
that's
Yeah.
totally what I'm running with, right?
Right on.
But what you brought up as far as like how you ran 6 issues and then they just killed it, and I think it's funny you do see that very much in society overall. Period nowadays, and I think it's a lot in the comic industry. I mean, how many comics nowadays get to issue 4, maybe, and they're like, oh, the sales aren't there, and then they start off at a different issue 1. Like they're literally the greatest, worst example I can think of this is the fact that I think Deadpool got to issue 15 and then they restarted it again for no reason. It was the same story. They just wanted another issue 1.
Yeah.
And then you see you hear people with the movies, they're like, I don't know, man. There's just so much there and this and that. And like that's the moment when somebody says that about the films, I'm like, oh, you don't read comics.
Yeah.
Like I know, because I do think it takes a different kind of mind to think about, like the things you were talking about, Jay, with Beyonder, and I mean how they're doing the Doom and then the Secret Wars. And if you look at, like, they're obviously using Hickman's version of Secret Wars, I'd say, more than anything else, because
Seems that way.
yeah, man, I kind of feel like they're gonna pull in a God Emperor Doom, you know what I mean? But with that, like they're not gonna bring in Molecule Man. Like you think, Mark, like what would they do? How would they introduce Molecule Man to the random the MCU audience? You think it'd work?
They did that with the Mole Man, didn't they, in the FF movie? I don't know. They just randomly threw him in there, which I thought was a terrible choice. But
That
did they
was
do something with the monkeys too, with those gorillas? The red, was that the Red Ghost? I don't know why. The early FF movies, I'm sorry, comics. They do something with the early issues. They had the Mole Man, and they had the big monster that came out of the ground, and they had some gorillas or something like that. Weren't they from the early FF comics? I don't know why, but you went to Molecule Man based on just thinking about how you introduce these guys. They just plop them in movies, and the only people they're almost like little surprises for the core readers. People who never read FF don't know who the hell those characters are.
Yeah, and you know what? To me, like they've robbed us of a complete Victor Von Doom. Like we're getting Tony Stark as Doctor Doom, like
That's
which
right,
is like when I think about all the amazing actors that are out there, what they probably could have done with that role, what that role could have meant for another actor's career.
Absolutely.
Right. And they just rehash it. I don't know. It's just, it feels weak to me.
Chris Pine, right? He's a few different guys.
So many guys out there.
Ryan Reynolds, a couple different guys.
Look, that's the only, because technically he's in the MCU now with Fox getting purchased by Disney. But I'm telling you, that would be the funniest. Like if you had Deadpool and Doctor Doom, and they're both played by Ryan Reynolds. That works. that works on a real, because Deadpool is meta. So it totally. Oh, that works, and they're both burnt. Which Mark, can you handle casting, please? Because I need that in my life. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Like Ryan Reynolds looking at Ryan Reynolds' burnt up face, and they're totally, and then the one that's Doom really just gets mad and just and Deadpool has to take a month to heal from what just happened.
Yeah.
Which, oh my gosh, that's bloody terrible, right? Yeah. What do you think of the overall evolution as far as how the miniseries became such a thing? I mean, because I'm not trying to date you, Mark. What was the first comic you ever picked up?
It was an early Daredevil. I think number 7, maybe.
Okay.
I had never seen a comic book before. I grew up my first 8 years of my life, I was in Brooklyn, New York. And I remember, it feels like an old black and white movie, man. One of my friends was sitting on a curb, and he popped open Daredevil, and he had the concentric circles, kind of like for his radar or whatever. And I had never seen a comic before, And then my uncle Tim, who was a big Uncle Scrooge McDuck and Archie fan, brought me to a comic shop in Ditmas Avenue, Brooklyn, when I was about 7 years old. And there was a Spin Racks again. I remember seeing like Fantastic Four annuals, and I just picked every comic there. I had like a pile of comics like this, and he found out the guy was charging more than cover price, and we put them all back, and I was wrecked from it. But it opened my eyes to the whole thing. And my first big comic I bought was Avengers #1 for $7 when I was 12 years old, and my mom smacked me in the back of the head. What are you spending your money on this crap?
Wow.
You guys know that's a serious comic, right?
Yeah. So there was, when you were that young, there were comic shops?
I was probably, it wasn't even a comic shop. I think it was a stationery store that sold comics. That's right. That's what it was.
Okay.
I was figuring it was a drugstore, personally.
Could have been a drugstore,
I was going to say that's really early for a pure comic shop.
Definitely wasn't comic shops. Yeah.
But
stationery stores.
Yeah, but with that, you know what I mean? You're starting off, and with that era, you didn't so much have to worry about getting the next issue. You know what I mean? You could pick up an issue and read it. Oh, if you picked up and if you missed an issue, you probably weren't going to miss anything really significant. You might, but the chances of you not being able to follow the story are far less than they are now. Where, like I remember when after I mean, I'd been collecting a little while. I probably got started right around when McFarlane was doing Spawn, and that's the thing that really, really drew me in was McFarlane's Spawn, and then I expanded out and read a lot. But then I remember like the Age of Apocalypse storyline came out, and that was the first storyline that I'd seen, or it might have been Onslaught. I don't know which one predates which. Do you know does anybody know what was first, Onslaught or Age?
I think Onslaught was first.
Yeah, okay. But those are two great examples of stories that if you really wanted to keep up with the story, oh my God, you needed 80 comics, right? Like minimum, right? To keep up with that story. And now it's gotten to a whole nother level of that with what Marvel and DC both do respectively, to where, okay, here's this main story. Now you want every other part of it. Here's 80 other issues for everything. I just read Death of the Family. I'm like, oh my God, this went across every, and I got the graphic novel. It went across
Every Batman book.
Yeah,
That whole thing was so crazy brilliant.
It was, and seeing it like that, to where I could read it all and it was collected. Hey, that was dope. But you know what? I think that's something that turns off the, like somebody just trying to step into books, because it's like, yeah, I want to read this story. Oh my God, I got to pick up 8 different issues this month just for this one story, and none of them are the same comic. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I don't know, but I'll tell you on another note of what you said, Jay, a minute ago. I heard a rumor, and Mark, maybe you've heard this rumor. I'm curious with what you do and who you know and who you chat with. But I heard a rumor that the Marvel universe in the comics that they were gonna do a hard reset.
Don't they do that every month?
Not like, no, I mean like DC does every once in a while. DC's like a
The new
DC
52 kind of thing?
like a real hard reset.
A
Again,
rebirth, yeah.
this is Rebirth. Well, but even Rebirth was just the 4 books. It wasn't everyone. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If you look at Marvel, Marvel has never done a true like a New 52 type reset within, or at least not. Am I wrong, gentlemen?
The Ultimates.
That
kinda.
doesn't count. It was a different universe. They still had their other
Yeah.
universe. You know what I mean? They created
Yeah.
that's an offshoot. Here's this too. Not we're ending this and starting this. And that's what DC did with New 52. You know?
Heck yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Has
That
that
was
ever
a
been
huge shot in the arm from the industry.
Sure was.
Yeah.
I mean, but it didn't last. The core books stayed strong, but the secondary books kind of farted out pretty fast.
Yeah.
I tried to read. Look, I love Lobo. I've always kind of liked Lobo, and that wasn't my Lobo. You know what I mean, Mark? That
Well,
wasn't.
it's interesting. You're talking about Lobo because I did Legion 89 and Legion 90. They brought him in on the fourth issue, and he was a big player on the Legion books. So my hope is that if they do this standalone Lobo movie, that they're going to reprint all my stuff. I did 18 issues.
There you go. What's your longest straight run on a title, Mark?
Exiles, 39 issues.
Right.
After that, I think Doom Patrol was, Legion would have been 18 issues. And I think Doom Patrol was like 14, 15. But a lot of people don't connect me with any one book because I had 12 issues of Doctor Strange. I did 11 issues of Iron Man.
It's funny you just said that. Sorry. For some reason, if I had to pick a character to associate with you, I can't really explain why, but to me, it's Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why. I don't know. Maybe I've seen you draw him a bunch, but for some reason, maybe it's that you just particularly do him so well. But I don't know. For me, I do associate you with Doctor Strange in my weird mind. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, actually, I had a little bit of the salt and pepper hair at one point. And people used to think I was a little more like, it'd be a good Halloween costume for me.
Nice.
The backstory with Doctor Strange was I was on contract at DC for 4 years, from 87 doing Dr. Fate, Legion, 80, 88, 89. And then I did, I forget what the other book I did. I did a book, I'm having a brain fart, but DC, Marvel called me up and asked me if I want to do Doctor Strange. And I said, how'd you come across me? They said, well, we want some of that Doom Patrol energy over at Marvel. And I didn't, and then DC offered me Kong Gorilla.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you know who that character is, a talking monkey guy. And I wanted no part of that. If you couldn't put me in the mainstream, I'm not doing a secondary book. It was, I also looked at when it first came out, it was like number 120 in the top 100 comics. It wouldn't even make the top 100. And Neil Vokes was brought on to pencil it. And the editor said to me, it's yours if you want it. And I said, I don't want it. And then at the same time, Ralph Macchio, not the Karate Kid Ralph Macchio, but the editor at Marvel called me up and they said, do you want to do Doctor Strange? And I jumped ship after 4 years. And it was a tough thing to do because, back then the continuity contracts, they covered benefits. I was getting full medical benefits. I had a bonus.
Right.
It was really a great time to be in comics. I don't think they offer those kind of deals anymore with everybody.
They don't offer that anywhere anymore, Mark. But I do think it's funny. I don't have your issues, but I have been. I have been collecting. This is issue 30 and then issue 31. I've been going through the dollar boxes at a couple places and like just re-garnering certain parts of my store.
Issue 4 to 18 are books I worked with.
I'm working on getting it all, man. I think like because it's early Lobo, and I mean that's just something I honestly want to read. But it's one of those things. Yeah. It's crazy to me what you can find in a dollar bin sometimes, and how much like it flies by. And I think it's because the comics were more mass produced. I think. What do you think out of everything that happened to comics in the 90s? Was the thing that had the most negative effect? Because I have my opinion, and it might be jaded, but I think it's the
You just said it though, man.
What?
Overproduced. They made too many.
I think it's that, and that suddenly people thought that they could buy a comic and keep it, or instantly resell it for a higher value. And they weren't even concerned with the book and the content and what it was. It was strictly for the purpose of making a profit. And I feel like when that comes into anything, just to be clear, I'm not just talking comics, but when the pure point of just profit comes into anything, it corrupts it a little.
So I have a very specific memory of when Nomad #1 came out in 1992. Because Fabian wrote it. I was working with a guy named Clark Hallbaker. He left. Pat Olaf came on the book. Little boy, I have to say, little young kid, 11, 12 years old, comes over with 10 copies of it. He asked me, he put every one, could you sign these 10 copies for me? All #1s. Signed it, he put it right back in the bag. Don't know if he ever read the book. Thought he was going to college with that money he was going to make on it. I just bought 100 of them 2 months ago for 50 cents a book. The book sold 412,000 copies in 1992.
Wow.
It was crazy. The royalty check was over 10 grand.
That's huge.
But just that 412,000 copies, but guys are saying hundreds of them, and I just bought a guy's 100 that he had in his back in his warehouse. It was crazy.
Wow.
That's talk about overproducing and stuff like that. Think about the years when they did the glow in the dark covers, the embossed covers, the reflective, right? All that stuff. You had to have, as a collector, you had to have all of them.
Dude, Mark, don't get me started on the covers, because like that's the whole 1 in 100 and 1 in 50, where you're charging an absurd amount for a book that just came out. Like that annoys me a great deal. I can't tell you on stuff, because it's like, look, I've got this and it's 1 in 100. And my whole opinion of that, and it will stay my opinion forever, is if you want to spend that much on a book and have it to where it's like, look, this is unique in mine, go buy a blank cover and then send it to an artist and pay them to make something. Then you go, this is mine. There's only one, right? Like there's only one of this Swamp Thing by Mike Reed. Like, I've got stuff from the show that people have done, and my boy has stuff from the show that people have done, and there is only one. And it's not about, ooh, there's only one. It's about, that was really cool, and it was done, and it was about the moment more than anything else to me, you know? And I think I wish people would appreciate that more as far as in comics, as opposed to, oh, there's only 100 of these, and I can sell. Don't get me started on Pokemon collectors or scalpers specifically. I'll scalp somebody, man. I got my
That whole industry's I think it's in a bad place right now, man. If that bubble bursts, what's going on with Pokemon right now, people are gonna lose a lot of
Are we
money.
talking about trading cards?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Pokemon cards are they're worth too much money right now. And this whole dealing thing and the whole TikTok guys all doing their thing, it's blown a lot of stuff up that I don't think is going to be sustainable.
It's what's happening to Pokemon right now is similar to what happened to comics in the 90s
In the
and
90s,
early
yeah.
2000s. Right.
Totally. Yeah.
It's really, 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 really like uncannily similar as far as what's happening. And I don't understand why people do this and focus on making it not about the product.
Like, does anybody actually play Pokemon?
I look, firstly,
Collector cards, right?
I play a very simplified version with my boy because I made the mistake of about a year ago showing him the very first episode of Pokemon, like the original, like from way back, and he fell in love with it. So it's Pokemon and comics for my boy right now, and I'm like, hey, that's a good combo. One works words and one works numbers, so I'm totally okay with it. I think it's really helped him as far as a person, but I do think it's odd how many people get into these things and don't appreciate them for what they are. Like, Mark, does that ever annoy you, Mark? You sit there, the work you put into this book. You sit there and told away on this, and then you've got somebody that got it, and they didn't even take the time to appreciate it for what it was and the creation that was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's I mean, you spend 3 weeks, blood, sweat, and tears, and it's, you run to the store to see what it looks like in print, in the beginning, and people are reading it and they're not, paying attention to even who created it,
I did that early on. I won't lie, like but when I don't know, did you pay attention to the creators when you were a kid? I'm curious.
Me or Jay?
There was only Stan Lee. He created everybody back then.
Yeah, he was the guy. It took me a while to know that. I also didn't read captions when I started to read comics. I felt captions were just boring. It was word balloons or bust for me, So, of course, captions and credits were kind of in the square boxes. Just put them aside and just read. But then I realized there was a lot more to it than word balloons, And at that point, I was in my late 40s. No, just kidding.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. We're gonna take a real quick pause, gentlemen. We'll be right back. I'm gonna knock my child out, gentlemen. I apologize, Mark. I'll be right. I'm.
I can't even hear.
Well, he's really, but he's hollering for me, and if I don't go deal with it, it's an issue.
All right, I'm gonna grab a drink quick then while we're taking a second.
What?
Oh.
What? I love you. We gotta be up early for school. I'm doing the show, but I'm talking. Oh, go to sleep. Okay. Good night.
Hey, thanks for coming on, by the way. It's really good to see you.
Oh, it's awesome to see you, man. I wouldn't have missed it. Yeah, the second he said, I was like, oh, I'd love to come on that. So that worked out well.
And then my dumbass just forgot to put the 13 in. I've been told I need to be quiet, and then I've been rude in this show, and I think that's kind of hilarious because I'm like,
You do you, baby.
it's no man, it's whatever. Look, we're back. Yeah, my bad. Like like
I
don't
don't want to
laugh.
say when
Did you
he
just?
didn't put the 13 in, he thought it was you. He thought he was going to bitch
All,
slapping you.
all I know is it's really weird to have Jay Clark giggle about something I did. The crap, Mark. What the crap? It's the weirdest thing ever. So, how did you two meet up, man? Was it just initially the podcast?
No, well, what it was 2015, which was my second year at Motor City Comic Con. Because the year before, I had been invited out by Drunk on Comics, who were a fellow podcast, a bunch of guys I hung out with. And they were like, come out to Motor City. We'll get you a press pass and hang out. And we did that the first year. It was awesome. And then the second year, I came out, and my friend Derek was like, Mark McKenna's here. And I was like, I know that name. Why do I know that name? And then I realized it's because he worked on Old Republic Star Wars with my friend out here, Dave Ross, back in the day. So I got all excited, and I went over and met him, and we chatted for a bit, and I asked him for an interview for my podcast, and we sat down at his table and we fucking chatted for a while. And it was awesome because it was just a little while. It was like a year or so, I think, after you had done Celebration. You had done that.
2012, I did Celebration.
Yeah, he had done. It was like a couple years after that because you had done the piece with the two Twilight girls on it for Celebration, and you gave me one of those, and you signed it, and it was awesome. And then I just started seeing him at shows all the time.
Yeah.
Wherever we were, Chicago or Michigan,
we
York.
We became fast friends for sure. I think to me, Star Wars was a big connect for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
well, I mean, for me, Star Wars I was still learning about the whole, like, you went to the Star Wars Celebration and 75,000 Star Wars fans. They're not comic book fans, they're Star Wars fans. And here I am trying to sell, I don't know, Exiles pages to Star Wars fans.
Well, that ain't gonna happen.
Not flying,
No.
But that's why I do a little Twilight piece. Sold 100 copies at $35 each before I even got to the show. They did a pre-sale.
Right? Yeah.
And I sold another 60, 70, 80 at the show. But
That's
I got to tell
amazing.
you, the Acme show took 12% of everything that was Star Wars and 15% of everything I sold that was not Star Wars.
Wow.
I couldn't even collect money. Like, you go to a con, you collect your own money, you give the people their stuff. I had to write out a receipt. They had to pay at a register, come back, show me the stamp receipt, and then give them the product.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a great time too.
I've never if somebody told me, hey man, do you want this? You got to go over to that register. And I was at a convention, I would give them this strange, like, what did you just say to me? Like, what do you mean? I am in front of you with cash, good sir. Give me the wares. Like,
but then I just remember I really got to know Mark better in Philly over a couple years because our mutual friend Stan used to run. He used to be comic lead for the Great Philadelphia Comic Con, and I was the panel coordinator. So I would coordinate all the panels with all the celebrities and the comic guests. And Mark was always at every one of those shows. He never missed out. So we had some really fun after parties over the years, sharing pints and listening to like Don McGregor go on about this or that. Just crazy good times. So yeah, we had a lot of fun, man. And Mark was a friend of Source Point Press. A lot of those kids knew Mark, and he was very friendly to us as a publisher. So
Travis used to pick my brain quite a bit about how to do this, how to do that.
100%. Yeah.
Happy to. They're still doing well, I guess.
Source Point has just come back. They had been on the shelf for a while. Travis started a distribution company called Whalebacker, and they're doing excellent. They're doing incredibly well. They do like custom distribution. So if you have like a weird product, they'll figure out the best way to safely, efficiently package it and send it on. So he's got a warehouse and he's doing all that. So SourcePoint has just come back under Josh, who founded it,
Sure.
Josh Werner and Dirk Manning. So
Okay.
Dirk Manning is serving as like the head publisher right now, and they're just starting to come back with a couple titles, and put the toes back in the water, sort of thing, and we'll see how it goes. So it's exciting to see the resurrection of SourcePoint, as it were, and I wish it all the luck in the world.
Absolutely, you're all good guys too.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see. That was a very traumatic time, like the pandemic for everybody, because you remember, Mark, like we were like a giant band. We were like 12, 15 people always like sleeping in the same van or hotel rooms, or like we were like the sub pop of like comics. And our whole thing was grinding out the shows. You could go to any show in the Midwest and you'd see a big giant SourcePoint booth with a whole bunch of creators selling their own comics.
You had a whole wagon train going on.
Exactly. So when the pandemic came and that all went away and we had to go online, it was too hard. And just like a lot of other companies, because of the way we did things, we just couldn't push it through. So luckily we got through. There was no like bankruptcy or anything like that. It just got to a point where, okay, we got to now put everything's paid, everything's good, let's put it on the shelf for a while and kind of see what happens and work on this other thing that we know we can do. So now, after a while, it's been times, and I don't know if we'll get back to where it was, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Say hi to those guys if you talk to them anytime.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's been a little while, but I owe them a conversation for sure.
Let me ask you this, Mark, as someone that's seen all this. What do you think, as someone that wants to get into the comic book industry? I typically find that the best advice anyone gives is like, just make a short comic. Like, that's the first thing you need to do. Now, after you've done that a couple times, what level of importance, especially nowadays, do you think conventions hold for success?
How else can you do it? When I meet young up and coming people, I say to them, get on the other side of the table, produce a book, whether it's an ash can or a 16-page comic. Go make your 10, become a lost leader in the beginning. Sell your book. You're like, I only lost $20, but you have 20 more readers or whatever it is. But I think, Brian Pulido, who did Lady Death, right, who's now, I don't know, millionaire a few times over. His stuff used to be hanging up in a comic shop when I lived in Central Jersey. And he told the owner of the shop, I'd like to meet Mark. And I went out, he bought me lunch and we talked. And he had this crappy artwork hanging up in a comic shop. And I thought, this is just a pipe dream, bad girl artwork stuff. But he just did his thing. He got on the other side of the counter, started selling books, and hit on the right time, because Marvel was taking the plunge back in the mid '90s, and the indie business started to pick up a lot.
Yeah, he definitely, and I think he definitely, all the guys over at Caust came out with something that I think the industry was primed for at that moment. That was just like, here's sheer chaos and utter. I mean, not to play off the name of the label, but
right.
Because that's what it was. It was because I was a huge Evil Ernie fan. Like, I think, like, I liked the depth of that character that he probably never really got credit for having, as far as all of his backstory and why he was like, yeah, I'll kill everything, I don't care. It really kind of like, well, man, if you have so much human evil done to you, at a certain point, you're just gonna like be like, yeah, I'm not cool with any of these people. So I got that. And then with Lady Death and everything else he did, I think they tied all of that together really well. And it was something interesting that came out of the industry. I feel like, who do you think's doing that currently in the industry? Like, who do you think? You think there's a current like Image Chaos Comics that like is taking it to another level that's not a subsidiary or somebody that's associated with Image? Because I definitely would say Kirkman obviously did it recently.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in day-to-day comics anymore. It's been 13 years since I've done anything mainstream. But Kirkman's name just came up. I was out to lunch with a friend today, and he was telling me how Kirkman's like running other companies now or something.
He bought the Transformers and the G.I. Joe properties.
That's what I heard. Yeah. That's
Did
what I
he
heard.
really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. He
Really?
bought, and he's and I just found this out.
He's so rich.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Look, man, you know how many people wanted to do Invincible and he kept telling them no because they wouldn't do it the way that he wanted. And then he made enough money with The Walking Dead. He was like, I'm going to go do it the way I want. And no one could tell him no because he had enough money to go do it however he bloody well wanted. You know, I mean, he literally got himself to that point. I mean, yeah, he bought G.I. Joe and Transformers, right? Like he just, and they're continuing the original G.I. Joe story, but then they're doing like Void Rivals is the big one, and they're bringing those two universes. It's the Energon universe. That's what it is, where they're bringing the G.I. Joes and Transformers together into one. I've read a little bit of it. It's very, very intriguing. But yeah, you get. So Matt, do you read comics anymore, Mark?
No, I hate to say that, but I remember when John Buscema was on a panel and somebody in the audience asked if you read comics, and he said no. And Kevin McGuire was sitting next to me. He goes, "Man, that's depressing. You would hope the guys that you look up to are comic readers." But I mean, the business is, you know, it's just a different world out there. I don't go to comic shops. If I get invited, I'll go and I'll do a thing, but I wouldn't know what to look at anymore. At one point, Walking Dead was the only thing I was buying in comic shops because the guys recommended it, you know. But yeah, no, other than making my own product now, there's not a lot I read.
You know what I find though, Mark? Isn't it like creators through most of their careers, I never find are huge readers because they're too busy working. You know, a lot of creators and artists, especially artists and writers, they don't have a lot of time to sit down and just enjoy comics because they're too busy making them when they're at that level that Mark was working at with those companies. Do you know what I mean?
That's the answer right there.
Yeah.
And it's an answer I've heard before. It's an answer I honestly kind of suffer sometimes. I mean, this stack needs to get smaller, but it keeps getting bigger as far as what I need to read. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm like, I'm gonna get to him. Oh yeah, I know I need that issue because I'm gonna get to him. Right? Oh, I need this issue because I'm gonna get to him, and then it just keeps stacking and stacking and stacking, and I'm just like.
Yeah, I stopped buying story arcs of floppies now. I will wait till a trade comes out now because it's out of control, right? Especially with me being a Star Wars guy. Like Star Wars comics, you know, in one aspect, they're doing really well right now, which is awesome. Especially the Darth Vader titles have crushed it for a few years now. And, you know, Charles Soule working on all that stuff. And, you know, but there's so much of it now that I just wait till there's a nice little trade of like a certain 10 issues. And that's how I'll read it. Other than that, I only read like single issue independent comics occasionally at this point. You know,
when Marvel originally took on the Star Wars stuff, I thought they were going to let the Old Republic stuff just die on a vine. Originally, I think there was word that they weren't interested in reprinting that stuff. And then, of course, I think they did, right?
Yeah, it's all Legends
now.
now.
Blood of the Empire and Lost Sons, all that stuff that I worked on.
Yeah.
So can't take that away from me, at least. You know?
And I got all the originals with your signature right on the cover.
Yeah, fun times.
You be careful, man. My brother will show up at your house and rob you. Man, I'm just letting you know, Jay. Like,
well, it sucks because I've known him and Dave Ross, you know, probably about the same amount of time. Like, probably met like, you know, over a decade ago at this point. It was over a decade ago. And, you know, I've had the pleasure of like being the intermediate hello between the two. And every time I see each of them, them saying hi for the other. But it seems to have never worked out where the three of us have been in the same place at the same time. So I've got several issues signed by both of them, but it's never been at the same place. So maybe someday.
Dave,
I don't think I've never known you to come to Canada other than like once or twice, right?
I did that Toronto show once or twice. Yes.
Yeah.
in Calgary, which is not near you at all.
An
that was
amazing show, though.
Yeah, it was an amazing show.
Mhm.
Dave reached out to me about a month ago and asked me to do some Cal Ripken trading cards.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they were going to do it, but apparently the publisher had issues making ends meet, and there was some outstanding finances due to Dave. And he said to me, "Listen, I will pay you." And I said, "Dave, if you're not getting paid, don't go in your pocket for me. I can wait, you know." And then like a week later, a check shows up, you know, and he took care of me anyhow. And I told him, "You don't have to do that, man. I'm in this with you, you know."
Yeah.
But we did these 4 trading. I still don't know if they're coming out, but you know, I have not talking to Dave in a long time. And then you know, we're always friends. It's just like me and you, we're friends. And
Yeah.
you just hope everybody's doing well, you know. And
We need to restart this whole commercial because people could probably hear Pokemon in the background.
Please check out this amazing promotion that we have prepared with the questionnaire.
I'm the Unknown Factor. This right here is the obscure fragment.
Are watching this show
Yeah, I'll do editing.
with the questionnaire.
So we've edited this awesome commercial together, y'all.
90% off.
We are not giving 90% off.
No, I mean 9.
How about 20?
The only thing that you have to do is enter that code that you have right there.
9.
No, 20.
10.
How about 20?
I'm printing your comics today with Studio Comics Press.
Just use this code right here, right here, right here. Look, I put it somewhere. All right, it's probably actually right here, right. It's right under your chin. It says Quest 24.
That code you gotta enter in our website, and then you will get a whipping discount of 20% in any of the items or products that we have on the website.
9.
20.
9.
20%.
9.
All right.
9.
He wants to give you 9% off. I, as well as Alfonso over there on Studio Comics, want to give you 20% off.
You can get it right there with this amazing code. Just enter it right here. Yeah, just right there. There.
Use that code over at Studio Comics to get 20% off.
Thank you very much. This is a special one for all our friends of the questionnaire.
Type in Quest 24 when you check out, man. You can figure out the percentage you'll get right then because it'll show in your order.
Yeah,
Right?
9% off.
It's 20%.
The Questionnaire, the best current comic book podcast existing around.
So happy to have Studio Comics as our very, very first sponsor. Say Studio Comics!
Studio Comics!
Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and do all the stuff that you have to do.
I'm the Unknown Factor with the questionnaire. Make sure you check it out.
Now I have a goal on a different note, but we'll discuss that later, Jay. And I want to know though, Mark, what percentage of the negative effects do you think were just some guy that was in a business aspect, not a creative aspect, just in the business aspect of the comics, didn't care about the stories, was just trying to turn as much as he would, and just was bad with money? Like, how often do you think that happens?
are you talking about creators now, or?
I mean, I guess just everybody. Like, yeah, how often do you think it's just mismanagement of money is the thing that causes it to where there's any kind of collapse in anything, whether it's a small or a large one?
I don't know if I have an answer for that, to tell you the truth. I don't know if I thought it in depth.
I mean, it's funny because we were talking about Brian Pulido earlier, and like I said, I got a lot of love for him as a creator, man. I read a lot of his work as well. But that's one of the greatest examples I can think of someone that was purely on the business side of it and a complete mismanagement of money. And that's what happened to Chaos Comics. From what I don't know, and I've never looked up the true story, but from what I understand, it was just there was an accountant that wasn't paying the taxes.
That's like inside info type stuff, you know.
That's
like
just
I can
what
tell you, you know what happened to Source Point in Calgary right after the whatchamacallit, the pandemic. We were gonna do a show in Calgary, and none of our shit showed up because of like shipping stuff, which meant $35,000 just didn't show up. And that's the kind of hit after the pandemic that's hard for a company to come back from, right?
Absolutely.
So it's you never know what happens, right?
I didn't ask for information though, Jay. I just asked if Mark had a percentage. I wasn't like, tell me all the stories, Mark. let's find out. Let's find out who screwed up where money wise that caused issues. Like
He
what
said he
happened
didn't
to-
have an answer for you. I was just coming up with an idea.
Man, I'm just trying to get information out of Mark. Don't worry if it becomes too sensitive, I will edit it. Trust me.
My
There.
information is antiquated.
Back when you were working, Mark, like, was there anyone that you don't, without naming names, was there anyone you remember thinking they're shit with money or they're not budgeting this well? Do you remember ever having those thoughts while you were like in the bullpen?
Not with Marvel. Honestly, I can't think of. What comes to mind is when I first started in 1980. I was on 85 and 86. I was on staff at Marvel. I worked for a company called Now Comics, and Now Comics did a book called Die Kamikaze, which is a giant robot in outer space protecting the Earth from other, UFOs and whatever. And they did a Speed Racer comic. They did a Racer X comic that they did a preview in one of the issues of Die Kamikaze. But this is off topic a little bit, but I remember them owing me money, and I think the guy who ran the show, his wife was the accountant, and she would say, it's just your artwork. It's not your money. It's just you're doing artwork. It's not money, for you. And she was trying to say that we have real bills and you don't, because you're just doing artwork. It was a wacky thing to say. Whereas, if you're working in a retail store and you're putting cans on the shelves, you're not. It's your on the shelf.
I guarantee she's pro AI art all the way.
This is 1986.
Well, I'm just saying now, like if she ain't dead, she's like, yay, AI art, it's free.
But I wanted to just, while we were talking about Star Wars before, I want to go back to, I don't know if you knew this, Jake, the other Jay. I was doing crypto art for a year and a half. Not AI, right? Crypto art. And I was invited to be the branded Star Wars artist for a company called Maker's Place.
Really?
Yeah, they said to me, "We want to do Star Wars art for our crypto site?" And I go, "Yeah, let's do it." So I started producing these Darth Vader pieces on top of a Rancor after you just slayed it. It's a beautiful piece.
Okay.
I had it colored by Ross Campbell, who's my top colorist, and I did Baby Yoda sitting in a high chair with the spilling the milk with his brain, and he's got the ball hanging over, and Vader's going like this. Holy shit! And they were selling like crazy. I go to bed and wake up. I was $15,000 more in my pocket the next morning. Like what just happened? And then they tell me it'd be nice if we got this stuff licensed. And I'm like, what? You're doing this without a license? But back in the Wild West, the crypto in the beginning in 2020 was like the Wild Wild West.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. So all of a sudden they're like, let's put Darth Vader fighting Combat Jacks, and then we'll transition into Combat Jacks. And I did a piece where Darth Vader is holding a pumpkin, an alien. I did a pumpkin, right? Yeah. And they were like, we can't do these anymore. And I'm like, how do you decide this now? Because one guy, Jose Delbo, did a Wonder Woman NFT that year, and it made $1.8 million.
What?
Yeah, and now the stuff is not under the radar anymore. It's smack in the middle of the radar. And DC did a cease and desist letter. I believe Marvel was starting to try to get into the crypto business. So I couldn't do anything with them in a public forum. But I had these three pieces, and I had a private collector reach out to me and say, you have any what they call one of ones, right? Which was a crypto.
Nice.
It was an NFT, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I do. I have these three Star Wars pieces. And he goes, well, what will you charge me for them? And I was ready to say, how's $2,000? And Kathy, my wife, says, don't give him a price. Let him give you a price. And he gave me, I think, eight Ethereum, which was like $8,000 or $12,000. I can't remember what the number was.
God.
For three pieces of art. that were just black and white pieces. You know, you do a pinup, you get $400. You know, now I've got $8,000 or $10,000, and because it was a 101, I could sell it. He wasn't selling it in a public market. I was selling it to
Right. It was a straight up private sale, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's sweet. I love hearing that. That's great.
That's the weirdest thing though, because you think like, oh, that's a weird rabbit hole as far as you could literally sell anything and draw anything and you're doing it as a one-on-one and you're selling it. But at what point, man, I feel like if you were doing that on a consistent basis, you're eventually going to get a cease and desist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't put a banner behind you with Wonder Woman if you never worked for DC Comics, you know. And they do it all the time, though.
Yeah,
It's hard to police that stuff, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's a discussion. It's funny enough. That's something that I've heard as far as when people defend AI art. They're like, oh well, whatever. These artists are going and drawing all these characters they don't have the rights to, and they shouldn't be drawn. As far as you know, when you go out to a convention, you could literally walk up to anybody and be like, hey, will you draw me? Name a character from Sonic the Hedgehog to Transformers to any Marvel or DC, and you know they'll pretty much be down for that. And I've heard that defense of AI art. It's like, oh well, those artists are stealing the art. And, you know, I think that is the weirdest argument I have ever heard as far as in that regard, because the artist is still trained to themselves to be able to draw that by hand, which is a feat. You're not typing it in like, you know, make Raphael. I don't know. Make Raphael
Who is ever going to use AI for one of ones? That will never be the case, right? So it's always going to be theft because it's always going to be multiple source usage and multiple source diggage. You can't have no one is going to buy something.
Yeah.
You're only ever going to use AI to garner an audience or promote something big or get a lot of eyes on something. No one's ever going to do AI one-on-one. It's just pointless. You know what I mean?
What's your thoughts on the usage of that for promotional purposes, Mark?
For promotional, I got to be honest with you. The whole comic art community fucking hates that stuff.
It's all theft. Period.
Yeah, it's horrible. Sorry about dropping the F-bomb, but
I don't give a shit. If there was an appropriate moment, Mark, that was it. You chose it well, good sir. Because
where's your soundbite for the week?
Yeah, as you said, fuck AI art. It isn't. It's not art in any capacity. It's not. I agree with everything.
But you notice small publishers are out there that have a software program for using AI, and they're creating their visuals and putting out their comic. And look, I don't have to use an artist. I did it myself. What the fuck is that? You know?
Yeah,
I was going to say, saying that I'm working on a couple indie books right now, and one of them is for a company called Blue Shack Comics, and they're up in the Albany area, and the guy produced this cover using AI, but he's got this girl underwater, red hair, and she's got a breathing apparatus, but he couldn't figure out how to put it over her nose and mouth, so it's hanging down here under her chin. And he goes, listen, this is just reference. He goes, can you light box this and draw it in your own style? That way he got away from, in an AI, not getting scolded for using AI. So I did it, and I put the apparatus on her nose, and it looks like my artwork now. But I used that as a starter, which I think is okay, right?
I think yeah, because an artist could just be sitting there and be influenced by things he's seen in the past. Sure. That's fine. So if maybe you used AI as actually a tool and like used it as to make a mock-up or like a rough thing that you're just going to use as like your placeholder until you do it in your own proper way, I could see how it could be used as a tool. But unfortunately, it's not. It's used by people just to do shit that they can't or don't want to do.
Correct.
And that's when it steals from other people who do. So,
but with AI, man, I feel like even using it like that is a very, very slippery slope. Because I know some artists that I've talked to, and they say, "Look, if somebody gives me an AI reference, I'm going to tell them to kiss my ass." All right, like, and that's their opinion of it. Because even in making that reference, they have clearly stolen art from other people and just having that reference made for you to look at. And look, like, why not? Look, I suck as an artist, Mark. All right, right. But if I had a concept, I could draw it really, really terribly, like really, really poorly. Like it might be stick figures, you know what I mean? But you would get the general gist and then have a short conversation and you'd be like, oh, yeah, all right, I got you. And you could come back with something dope that would probably be better, in my opinion, than anything that I could do is if I tried to have AI interpret that and then give it to you and you use that as a reference.
Right. No, I hear you there. Yeah, it's a thing. I'm just thankful that I'm in the latter part of my career because I could see the shit raining down on the world.
You know what the problem is going to be? I'm sorry, but like this is just a tiny, minuscule part of the fact that AI beyond comics and beyond art itself can make anything look real. I watched a trailer for a He-Man movie that like a behind the scenes He-Man movie that was being made. And it was the most realistic, unbelievably cool thing I'd ever seen. And that horrified me. I was like, I cannot tell in any way that these aren't real people right now walking around in like He-Man outfits. And when I've seen some of the stuff I've seen lately, the only reason you can tell it's not real is the fact that people are doing amazing, crazy things that you just know would never happen. But if you were to do AI with something that was plausible to happen, you could easily fool everybody already. You could put a video out that could easily fool the population already, no problem. And that terrifies me. Like, that's dangerous. Sorry.
No, Jay, you're right, and that's beyond dangerous. I mean, the fact,
like with comic art, sure, that sucks. A lot of artists, like, they're gonna lose their shit. But like in generally at that level, when it comes to actual art, you can tell it's very clear what is AI, because the difference between it and human creation when it comes to like visual art and illustration is that gap is still huge. But the things you can do with video effects now and AI is absolutely insanely terrifying. And that's why I say, like, that's just a little, like, the whole comic thing, that's just a little bit of this way bigger problem that I see coming.
And that's why we've all been buck naked this whole quest. Because of the invention of AI. I'm kidding. I did not do that to y'all. That'd be bloody terrible. But the fact that, like you say, Jay, it is easily, I don't know, man. It's funny. Like, I don't mean to go back to my, like, I've got you on, Mark, and stuff that me and Bagley talked about keeps getting brought, because he was like, I'm not worried about any of the art. I'm worried about it going to war games. And I'm like, oh, great, Mark, take it to the end of the world. Jesus, dude, I got a 6-year-old. Can you not be depressing? Like, seriously, man. So, I mean, it's a crazy time with some of the creators, I think, that I've had on the show, because I've had everything from people that are just getting in, they're just getting started, to people that were there during the boom and when comics were at a completely different level than they are now. It's very intriguing to have these conversations and see their perspectives, because I find that a lot of the times from gentlemen like you who are like, yeah, I'm at the tail end, and they're like, I don't give a shit about this AI. Like, it sucks, but I'm at this point, and it's thankfully not gonna affect me.
Yeah, no, people still ask me, do you use a Cintiq tablet to draw on? I go, no, I draw on paper, the old-fashioned way. And they're always amazed when I pull out a page of art. Like, but I don't know, you don't even know this, but I'm doing a Combat Jacks daily strip. Not a daily strip, but it's a newspaper strip now.
Where?
It's in a thing called A Kid in a Comic, and he's selling them through comic shops right now. And I'm doing these. They're right now. They're like bi-monthly.
So they're not online anywhere? They're only in print?
He's a new publisher. He was a fan who's just started doing this stuff on the side.
I want to read them.
Yeah, but it's taken me forever to do. Like, this is the first part. So the end of Combat Jacks, the planet blows up, a shard goes across the universe, ends up in the Himalayas, bringing the Yeti. The snowman is a bioengineered creature, done by the government. They released the Yeti on the pumpkins, and so now you got humans, pumpkins, and Yeti fighting each other. And this is some of the stuff, some of the setup stuff, and then you can see what's going on there. One of the guys is one of the Trek guys is going to get ripped up, and that's him that's the first time we get to see him.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
Great
that's. I don't want to see that be incapacitated by technology. That's what worries me.
Right.
Yeah,
no.
I don't
But
think.
so I'm sorry, but the thing I'm doing here that I don't do in a comic is I had 48-page comic book laid out that I could build into something. But when you're doing a strip, a bi-monthly strip, shit's got to happen fast. Just like we're talking about comics, if you don't get the audience by the third or fourth issue, goodbye, sayonara. So my guy's telling me, can you make more stuff happen? I'm like, no, I have to set it up. It's the way I imagined it for.
It's the way you've been doing it your entire career, and this guy's just like, no, do it a different way.
Have you ever done comic strip work like that?
No, it's totally fun and a little out of the box for me, But,
that's awesome, Mark. That even now you're like, I'm gonna try something new, Like what's that had to?
It gives me, it's not causing. There's not a big commitment when you're doing 2 or 3 panels. I got a guy lay it out for me. I whack it out in ink, and nobody's getting paid. It's just fun, shits and giggles right now,
But how far do you have that planned out, Mark?
So I just finished the 12th, segment, and I'm clear until February. But I got to be honest with you, I'm making it up as I go along. When I had it as a 48-page comic book, I have to shortcut now just to make things happen. And but I didn't finish it, the whole 48-page comic book, so I don't know where I'm going with this right now.
Awesome.
Which is kind of like, there's no safety net right now, right? I got to make the shit as I'm going.
That's
up.
great. That's such a good exercise, probably.
It is. It really is. And I'm not a natural writer, so for me, I mean, my natural writing is, doing a little children's book for 6-year-olds, which I know Jay knows that one.
Yeah, I know. Jay. Like I said, I gotta read that because you can see it right there in the background. In my rotating comics in my background. Nice. But I'm gonna have to because I've really got my boy into comics, and I think that works. But I don't even remember who I had this bloody conversation with, to be real honest. But I didn't realize. Look, when you start out as a reader, you start out with picture books with a couple words, right? Now, that particular book is written kind of like a picture book. It doesn't have the bubbles and everything as far as that a comic does. But do you ever realize
it's Banana Tales? Sorry, I can't see it well.
Yeah, Banana.
Correct. It's my 3rd storybook, Jay, that I did as it's a reverse though, yeah. But it's Banana Tail and Checkerboard Jungle.
Okay, yeah.
So
it's not
it's a hardcover.
That's amazing. Love it.
But
I made about $9,000 on a Kickstarter to do this, so it helped me a lot with that.
That's amazing.
Do you realize there's not a middle ground for reading? Typically it's picture books like that, and then you go straight to like novels and actual books, and the only real middle ground between that is comic books, but I feel like it's not used within society like it could be to advocate people reading.
That's a very good point. When I did it, I originally did it for sitting a kid on your lap and reading it to him in a rocking chair. And I did it as a quick 6-minute rhyming book. And then I went and I thought about doing something for the kids so to get older with it. And then I did the comic book, the Banana Tail Halloween special, which is just short stories, but they're done in comic book format.
Yeah.
So you could see, so kids can grow up reading comic books, reading Banana Tail. So I did word balloons and everything like that.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, and I think that's phenomenal. I don't think people really think about how much, because like I said, you're typically learning with pictures, with a big picture and a couple words. And if you go to a comic, then there is still that picture, but suddenly it turns into more of a story. I think, like, if you had a kid, if you introduce them first to those picture books and then you start using comics, and I mean, I would suggest Banana Tales. It's a great read. I've had it, I've read it, and I need to read it to my boy. But like, he's only 6, man. Give me a break, and I really just got him. I'm really just getting him started, man. Right? And with comics, I got him to the point where a couple nights ago he had the 9th book of Bone that we just started reading. He was holding it. He goes, "Daddy, I wish I could read," and all I thought was, "Oh, it's working." You know what I mean? Like,
He's going to be a voracious reader.
yeah. I'm like, and I don't think that would have happened without that middle step of comics.
Right.
How do you drill that into people's head that it's necessary, Mark? Come on. You've been in the industry a long time. You've lived quite a time.
Yeah, no, for me, I understand it. When I was working with Jim Valentino and we did the second book, the Banana Tail and the Colorful Adventure, he did it under Image, but Silverline was his co-company, whatever. And I was trying to make a young reader's graphic novel so kids can read it to themselves. So the transition was there for me, but is it there for the bigger? Jeff Smith's Bone is a very specific thing. He doesn't have a young reader's Bone and then does he? I don't know.
A lot of it's his fault with Bone. Bone was a time that like it broke from like I remember growing up and you started with Little Golden books and you started with Walt Disney books and and you moved into kind of more picture books and then you read certain flat out books. I remember when I was young, me and my friends, like we didn't have many options. So we were reading like Robin Hood and Moby Dick and stuff. And then when we got to like, maybe 8 to 12 was when in there somewhere is when we all discovered comics. None of us were little tiny kids, but we all knew about all those superheroes because we knew about Super Friends before we were reading the comics.
Right.
And that was our difference then. So, because I remember I knew all the DC heroes, but I'd never read a DC comic. And then one of my first comics was Green Lantern, Emerald Dawn 2. And in like the early 80s. And that was like the first comic book I ever read. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, this is a lot more serious than like the cartoon, I immediately picked up that I was like, okay, I get it. I think comics are more of a serious kind of storytelling than me watching Super Friends. I totally remember starting to learn that at that age. Yeah.
I don't know that I should have brought Jay along on this quest anymore, Mark. He started out with a DC book. All right.
Yeah,
you started out with a DC book, Jay. What? No, you're supposed to start with
I'm DC kid. I'm a DC kid through and through, man. I have no shame for it at all. I'm all DC all the time.
I just couldn't help myself because Mark's like, yeah, I picked up some Marvel stuff. I'm sitting here like, I picked up some Marvel stuff. And you're like, Green Lantern. And I'm like, you making a Ryan Reynolds joke?
No, but that was the Emerald Dawn 2. Did you read that story? It was a good series, man.
No, I was
holding a gas problem right about now. No,
because my first 2 comics were that and Archie, and Archie books. I remember it was for one of the early drives to the cottage, like your 3-hour drive north to the cottage when I was a kid, and my mom bought me the Green Lantern comic and an Archie book.
Wow,
those were my first 2.
What a flip flop those 2 books were, huh?
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
That's the other thing. Like you can literally find any story within comics. I wish there was just a way to advocate that more. And like I said, I highly recommend for anybody checking this out, man. Go get your comic on for real. There are links in the description. You can find all of Mark's books, right? Whether you want to see some pumpkins get really, really violent, they get really, really violent. Those pumpkins are really, really violent, Mark. What is wrong with you?
Can I say one thing that always has to be said if I'm on a podcast with Mark? And, talking earlier about identifying like a character with Mark or whatever. but I think I get this number right. Over 12,000 pages. Everybody's got to know and remember that this man right here, this guy, over 12,000 comic book pages helped created by this man right here. And that always just blows my brain.
You know
So
how
I
you know
always
how I
like
know
to-
you know how I know that?
I remember you counting somehow. You figured it out. Somehow in your head, you did like some weird
I
math.
would do the thing. Yeah, well, I knew there was 24 pages in a comic. I was at DC on a monthly book, and I, and I had
Figured it all out.
comp boxes.
How'd you figure that out? I don't even know how many episodes there
I
have been
remember
of
when he
this
did.
show. Like, seriously, if somebody walked up to me and was like, how many episodes you done of the questionnaire? I'd be like, I don't know. Go count them. And that would be the end of the conversation because I don't have time. Like, no. Like, a lot of them, they've been phenomenal. We've had so many great discussions. I have a plan to bring you all both on a pan con. We're gonna do that. Yeah, man. Look, I'll make it Star Wars based, Mark. What's up?
How can we do that?
Yeah, because look, man, when I had Jay on, I don't remember what he was talking about, but he was like the other enemies of the Jedi, Jay.
Oh, the Yuzon Vong from the
And I
New
was like,
Jedi Order
what are you
series.
talking about?
Yeah,
Jay? I've
yeah.
never what
Oh, they're sick. They're
like,
evil and sick. Yeah.
there's something other than the Sith that fights the Jedi. What
Oh, yeah.
what kind of tomfoolery BS are you making up right now, man? Because I think you're just trying to pitch a comic live on the show that never happened. Because
Oh, it happened. If you know, you know, because it happened. You know.
Yeah, I didn't know. So look, I don't I'm pretty sure he could school us both really, really hard, really hard on Star Wars. Like I don't even want to get into your lightsaber.
It's not a competition, man.
But whatever, dude. No, it's just like literally, it's the whole fact of like the information that I've gotten while running this show that I hope has been shared to everybody that's checking it out, and they've learned.
Dude, that's one of the
something.
greatest things about doing a podcast. You know, like I just did episode 460 of my podcast after like 13 years. If I had stayed weekly and not taken like a few years off here and there for different projects or pandemics or whatever, I'd probably be like at 1,000 episodes. But you know, the things I've learned, my point is the things I've learned over having those 460 conversations over a decade are invaluable and amazing. Like some of the stories I've heard and have been told about have been things that I just treasure because I know if I had never started the podcast, I would have never had those conversations and never, you know, had them recorded for prosperity, or posterity or whatever it is. And you know, I'm just so glad that I do. I've learned so much just talking to people, you know.
Do you ever go back and listen to any of the old stuff?
Once in a while, but you know what's funny is my kid just the other day, like 2 days ago, he came to me and I can't remember how it came up, but I mentioned how back in 2014 at Motor City, I had William Zabka on the show. And I interviewed him for like an hour and a bit for the podcast with Derek Becker out on the patio after it was like 2 a.m. after the after party. And the three of us just sat out there having a drink and like podcasting. And my kid freaked out because he's a huge Cobra Kai fan, right? So he actually the other day while he was doing something at school, he scrolled back through all the way to 2014 and found that episode and sat. And while he was doing whatever his work, he listened to the whole episode.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and he came home and he told me all about it and what we were talking about and this and that. And I was like, yeah, see, that's why I'm so glad that I've got that all there now. You know, because at the time, I mean, what was that? How long ago is that? That's 12 years ago, just about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was like 3 years old at the time, and now he's 15, coming to me and listening to this old stuff that I did that was just awesome fun, right? So it's great. It's just also cool, you know.
I have to share a picture with you. This is you get a kick out of this.
How, Mark? You've been on my show like 5 or 6 times over the years, probably.
This is oops.
I know that picture. That's awesome.
That's Luke Skywalker with my son Kyle and me.
Yeah, it's
I
Mark
didn't have a
Hamill.
gray hair in my head.
Yeah.
But what's funny about that is my daughter was 4 years old, and she's like, "Well, I want to meet Luke Skywalker," and she had to go to the bathroom when we got a photo op. So my son's like, "I don't know, I'm 6 months old. What do I know?" And he got the picture.
That is too cool. That
Yeah.
picture's classic.
Oh yeah, no, that's a classic, and I think that's the thing is people need to realize like conversations are very important amongst us. Don't watch TikTok for the love of God, but subscribe to the questionnaire TikTok. Click the link in the descriptions. Get you some dope books from Mark because you can do that right now, right? Like Christmas is coming up. I know I gotta decorate my tree. I'm gonna get to it. Hopefully by the next quest, there's at least like lights on this. That's goal, and then it'll be up like a month and a half after.
Just put some AI ones on there, man.
Look, if you've enjoyed this quest, what I want you to do is click the links in the description, right? Right? Get some dope art from Mark, man. I guarantee if you hit him up, man, if you give him enough money, he might just draw you something like whatever. I don't know, I don't know an artist that if you walked up to him and was like, "Hey man, I'll pay you to draw me some blah blah blah." I don't think there are many that would say no. There are some that would say no because they're gonna be like, "Dude, I ain't got the time. I'm drawing all of this crap. I am really sorry." Because sometimes they're drawing too much, man. But for real, and appreciate the real art. Please don't go generate AI bullshit because I am so tired of seeing it and hearing it, and then the redundancy of it is going to become ridiculous, and then somebody's going to make a video of me committing a felony, and we're all going to be screwed, and this show won't exist anymore because that's what's going to happen, right? So with that in mind, right, if for some reason you didn't enjoy this quest and Mark just like annoyed the crap out of you, maybe you're an AI bro. If that's the case, this will be really easy. Just make a video of Mark committing like 6-7 felonies and then put that out there. Really don't do that, right? I'm just kidding. Just click the link. Find some dope books, right? Besides that, I just want you all out there to do 3 things. Always. 1, give it that thumbs up. Always get your comic on. Or at least you can read something. Besides that, have a good night, y'all.